Okay, Tiffany, can you tell me what you do in your business and who you serve in your business?
Yeah, so I am a book editor and book coach, and I also design author websites and like small like coaches and things like that. Nothing that involves like a huge, massive website or anything like that. So like
Mhm.
little websites.
Okay, yeah, so you're assisting authors to build their website and then also like actually write their book as well, which is very intelligent. What was your business model like when you started the business? Was it like one-to-one services and like what exactly were you doing for people?
Yeah, it was just one-to-one services. I basically looked at every other book editor out there and I was like, I'm gonna do what they're doing because that's what you do when you start a business and you don't know what you're doing. So it was a lot, it was pretty stressful. In the last few years, so much has changed in like the publishing industry and whatnot. But back then, nobody was charging their worth. It was like a 1 cent a word kind of thing. We were charging per word to edit books uh, and whatnot. So yeah, just one to one and just developmental editing and like copy editing and proofreading, which
Hmm.
I don't like proofreading. I learned that really fast.
Good to know. Okay, good. So you were there, you're doing the one-to-one services, and you're like, okay, not like you had a dream of something else. Can you tell me what that like dream scenario looked like exactly?
Yeah. So I have always dreamed kind of big. My idea was that I wanted to like have a team of editors, and whatnot. I have a little team now. It's so exciting. Um, but yeah, I just kind of had this like nobody else is doing this. So I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I want to have like a team of editors, and I don't want to be the one who is like the only person working like one on one with people. But I started really small. My little tiny mailing list and my Instagram. I started doing these courses, but they were like, I wouldn't even call them a course now, but I started doing these like live course type things um, for 4 people at a time, kind of thing. And then slowly have like grown it a little bit. Every time we get a little bit more people, and that's really exciting.
From that point that you're at, you're like, okay, I'm selling this thing to like a few people. What was like your next step or your next thought of like what you should do next?
I feel like I did what everybody does, and I'm like, I'm gonna just like make this as perfect as possible. You know, that build it and they will come kind of mentality.
Mm.
Um, and then
How'd that
I
go?
learned from Paige that that's not how that works. But yeah, like nobody was seeing it. And the like you said, like my mailing list was small. And once I like looked at that like 2%, I think it's even less than that now. But I was like, oh, I actually had like a really I can't remember what the numbers are anymore.
Mhm.
But I had a really good conversion rate. It was like 4% or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
Um and even now I think I have like still less than 500 people on my mailing list. And I'm like, but when I look at it, I'm like, so many of these people have like been in my workshops and they've already worked with me and things like that. And so I'm like, my conversion rate is actually probably really good with this list
Mhm.
that I have now. So that's really exciting.
That is super exciting. Okay, so you realized need to do some list building. What was your game plan?
I was blogging and nobody was coming to it.
How did you turn that around?
Okay, so I took Paige's course and I realized that my blogs were way too short and didn't have any SEO at all. And so I literally used your template and like put keywords in the right places, made them 2,000 words long, did all of the things. And I do not know what the numbers are, but it's like a over 100% increase in traffic to my blog. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool.
That's really good. Okay, amazing. And then are those like those are your ideal clients coming to the blog? I'm assuming like these are super specific articles, right? Or like what are you typically speaking on in the blog?
Yeah, I'm talking about very specific things to like writing a book and editing a book and the publishing industry. Like one of my most popular blog posts is like writing people of color as a white author. And like I get so much traffic with that and my niche is helping marginalized writers. So like that's huge.
That is huge. That's amazing. Okay, good. You decided to launch some other program because I remember you said you did like a $10,000 launch or something off an email list of like a couple hundred people. Tell me what that new thing was that you decided to sell.
Yeah, so I launched a course, DIY developmental edit, to help writers like edit their own book with developmental edits. That's like the really big picture stuff, like plot and character and things like that. And I launched it to my list. I think at the time I probably had like 200 to 400. I mean, I still only have that many people, but I didn't have that many people on my list. And I wasn't selling it for that much. I think I was selling it for like $600 or something like that, because it was the first round I was doing it. And I got in like quite a few people comparatively, but I had my $10,000 launch. The ways that I did it were nurturing my list, announcing it on Instagram like all the time until I was sick of hearing myself talk about it. And then I personally invited past clients and people who had kind of been talking to me a little bit about working with me in the future. I was like, hey, do you want to do this first step and really get your book shaped up on your own before you work one on one with an editor? And I feel like a combination of those things really were helpful.
That's amazing. That's so good. And then have you launched this thing again and again? And are you able to like still enroll people like second and third time?
I had a second launch and I like doubled the amount of people in it, which was really good. And then I was kind of in this weird space where I was waiting to like see the results before I launched it again. And then I was focused on my mastermind. And so it's like evergreen right now, and I'm not launching it, but I'm preparing for another launch in the next like month or so.
That's exciting.
So
Cool.
technically only have launched it twice.
Yeah, that's great though. Okay, yeah, so now you mentioned you're like doing this mastermind as well. Like you're not just doing one-to-one services, you have this course, you have the mastermind. Can you tell me about the mastermind as well? And like how much do people tend to pay to get into the mastermind?
So last year was the first time I did it. It's a 6 month like writing mastermind. Last year I charged around like 2,400 for 6 months. Um, and I got 5 people in it. It was a very small group, but it was like a really intimate group, and it was really great. So we got to see a lot of growth in that 6 months, and it was really personalized. This year, since I had a little bit of proof and testimonials and stuff from last year, I got 10 people, and I charge double. So like it was $4,800 this time. And we have an in-person retreat this weekend, like tomorrow, as part of it. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I will probably be doubling it again for next year, because this year we've added like so much stuff to it and have like the proof now and the success stories and whatnot. I feel like FOMO was a really good way to get people interested, because last year I had so many people being like, oh, I wish I was in this. And I was able to be like, here, hop on the waiting list for next year. And this year I have that same vibe going, and we've got our waiting list going for next year.
Oh, that is so exciting. Cool. So what do you think you're going to put up the price to next year?
I feel like the past two times I've been like, we're going to go with my gut and change the number every 5 seconds. And I think next year I'm going to literally look at how much this year cost, because I brought in guest speakers and literary agents and things like that. But I feel like it has to be more than like 7,500.
Yep.
It can't be too expensive, but it's also 6 months and there's a one-on-one coaching element still to it and whatnot. So
Yeah, so you said you got 10 people last time, is that right?
this time, yeah,
This
January
past time.
through June.
Amazing. Okay, yeah, so $40,000 launch. And again, remind me, your email list is 500 people and you did a $40,000 launch off that?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Good job, Tiffany.
It's weird because I'm like, I haven't like looked at the numbers because they're all on payment plans and stuff, but I'm like, wow, that is $40,000.
That is $40,000. That's awesome. You also mentioned you've started hiring a team. When did you realize, okay, I need help and assistance? And what are they doing for you right now?
Kept getting advice to like literally talk to your audience and see what they need. I don't like to use the word pain points and twisting them and whatnot, but like figure out what they actually need help with, because I feel like I was creating stuff for like what I would want, not thinking about like the audience. So I asked 10 people to hop on a call with me and just talk to me for 20 minutes. And then I created 3 ideas from that. One of them was the mastermind, one of them was DIY developmental edit, and then the third one is what I've been calling like my mini mastermind. It's like a 6 week, very low price point um, group coaching kind of program that I do in the fall. And then I was like, okay, we've got these three things and that's what we're going to focus on. And then we're going to like have the higher level coaching. And that's what our business does. And once I had that, I was like, okay, we feel focused now. Now we need to actually make this happen. And so I mentioned earlier that I don't like proofreading. So my first um, teammate is a copy editor and proofreader. And so she does that for the business. And then I don't have to do something that I am really not passionate about at all. And she's really good at it. She has like a degree in it and just really loves that nitty gritty, getting in there and telling people when their consistency is off and whatnot. So love that for her. And then I wanted an assistant to kind of help me keep track of all the moving parts and like do little tasks that were just taking up too much of my time. And when I interviewed them, there were two people who were just really great and they had different skills. And so I hired them both. And so now I have two assistants and they work really well together and they are both coming on my retreat this weekend. So I'm going to see them tomorrow.
That is so incredible. I think it's so interesting to see, like, if you build a hyper specific list from like hyper specific content, built a team of three now, and then you also are doing these like launches of like 10K, 40K, clearly hoping for the next one. Yeah, if you can do the same number of people next time, like $75,000. And it's really like amazing what you can do. And I feel like people definitely underestimate. And I feel like that's so important for people to hear and to see is like, it doesn't need to be an insanely massive list. It just needs to be like 500 people who are like hella interested in this topic.
Mm-hmm. And it's so cool because they hop on the list and then they stay on it for a really long time. Like I remember getting on your list like right when I started my business, but I wasn't like anywhere in a space where I could take your course. So I was just like, every time a launch would go by, I'd be like, next time. And then one time I was like, I'm going to save up and I'm going to have the money for this next time. And I did. And that's when I joined I think it's like a year after I originally saw it. And I have clients doing that to me. They're like, oh, I got your workbook 2 years ago and I used it to edit my book on my own. And now I'm ready to work with you. And so, yes, there's 400 people on my list. They're not all ready right now. You have to keep nurturing them over time and not kind of forget about them and be like, well, they're not paying, so they'll never pay because they're going to all be at different price points and different stages of readiness and whatnot. So I think it's really cool. And also just really helpful to keep reminding yourself that like maybe maybe they'll refer someone else or talk about you somewhere, who knows. And that happens all the time. Okay, not all the time, but that happens.
I love that. That's so good. Talk to me about if someone's on the fence about building an email list right now and like creating content and everything. You've done it. Is it worth it? What do you think?
I think it's definitely worth it. Even as like a buyer, I go to someone's like blog and I see what they're talking about and what they care about and who they are as a person. And so that kind of helps me because like that's the kind of buyer I am. I have to like read every single thing on someone's website. And then I'm also like, do I like this person as a human? Can I like, do I want to give them money? Because money is a valuable resource, you know? Like, do I want to give this person money? So you can tell a lot about someone by their copy on their website, by their blog posts, by their newsletters, and things like that. So I think it's hella worth it. And also, one of the biggest hurdles is just like being seen and like having people judge you. Literally just got an email this morning trying to shame me for like my pricing and stuff like that. And I'm like, you're gonna get that. And it's okay, but I've done a lot of work and I've had a lot of conversations about these things that when I got it, I was like, oh, I see where this is coming from for you. And you're not my ideal client. And you are not, I'm not your ideal person to work with either.
Yeah, it's so true. That's so true. Tell me about your experience of going through my course on like content creation and list building. What was the aspect which was, I guess you would say, like the most valuable or like interesting bit to you?
I think at the time, the one thing that I remember telling you that was like the most helpful is that I was really struggling with the consistency thing. You had said, just send your blog posts to your mailing list. And I was like, oh my God, that's so smart. like I could just do that. And so I started doing that for a long time. And really, I feel like it just helped. Like people weren't seeing that anyway. And it really helped. I've since then changed it. And so now my newsletter is my freebie. And I give really hyper focused, like right now I'm doing a query letter series where they can send in their query letter and I'm editing them like in the newsletter and things like that. And so like I've only been doing this hyper focused freebie thing for a while. Um, and so I'm like gonna look at the data and see if it's working well in like a month or two. But I think that I've really noticed people are starting to comment more and email me back from the newsletter and tell me how valuable it is and things like that. And so now I'm like, I wonder if I can like turn these into a blog post. And I feel like I can find a way to tweak them a little bit and like make them blog posts too.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah,
Cool.
so I'm
That's
really
awesome.
excited about that.
Good. Yeah, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. That's genius though. I like that. I actually did a video recently where I edited someone's website and people loved the videos. That was interesting. So it sounds like a similar kind of concept actually. So that's good. Okay, and then final question for you. If someone is on the fence about taking my course, what would your advice to them be? Or what would your advice be to like yourself back in the day sitting there thinking like, should I do this? Should I not do this? I don't know.
I feel like you should definitely do it. Not because I bought every single one of your courses and they're all super gold, but because you give such like specific, not just like such specific action, but you bring in different people to have different angles on things. All of like the spreadsheets and the list on topic ideas and headline ideas, all of that stuff is just like such gold and so helpful. And you don't just have to sit there spinning your wheels figuring out what you need to do, and you just have like directions and you just do the stuff, and it's great.
And it works.
It works.
Clearly.
My
As you've proved.
150% conversion.
That's amazing. All right, amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was incredible.